Welcome back to Sound 101. I'm Andrew from Deity Microphones, and today's episode is very different and very special because we've got Curtis Judd in his house. His house is... I don't know. Let's get started. Just like that graphic said, today's episode does have a special guest, which is Curtis Judd. He is a world famous content creator here on the YouTube platform, in which he reviews gear every single week, as well as does tutorials and teaches you guys how to be better filmmakers. And Curtis has helped guide people around the industry for about the last 11 years. So Curtis, without any further ado, let's kind of get right into it. 11 years ago, you started your YouTube channel, but what kind of motivated you and how did you kind of start in this whole filmmaking world?
Ooh, well, I guess it's confession time. So I was mainly a photographer at the time. I had shot with DSLR cameras, and one of the things that I found was that those on-camera flashes produced pretty horrible lighting. And one of the things that I did eventually was I got kind of an extension cable so I could hold the light off of the camera and still trigger. That way it made better photographs because it wasn't right on the camera, got it off camera. And then secondly, I went down to Home Depot, I bought a plastic potting plant, and I fashioned basically what I would call a beauty dish out of that I could fit onto my flash gun. And from there I was able to produce much better lighting. And I actually shot several weddings with that. People would laugh at me when I'd show up, but then they saw the photographs and they're like, wow, that's pretty good. So my initial thought when I went to YouTube and started posting videos was I wanted to kind of float this idea. My thinking was, I want to see if there's any interest out there for this kind of thing, and maybe I can get it manufactured and then we could start selling these. And, you know, obviously when you start doing video, you have to care about your microphone. You have to get a microphone, and you have to, figure out which one's going to work best for what you're trying to do. And that's where later on I did a review of a little $20 lavalier microphone. And that one was the one that kind of exploded. And so to me, that was feedback from the audience. Hey, we want to know about sound. We want to know about how to record sound. And so that's really kind of how I got started there. Yep.
So even 11 years ago, your very first couple of videos were audio related.
Yeah.
And as well as lighting, and especially DIY. When the videos kind of started, was the channel something you wanted to be a channel as we know it today, or was it a catch-all for your videos?
No, it was just a place to put videos and really to hopefully reach an audience. And really, those first few videos, people seem to have some interest in the sound thing and the lighting thing, the DIY lighting thing in particular, because everyone's now making YouTube videos and they got to light it somehow. So those were the things where I started to see a little bit more interest. And so kind of, I guess really the theme here is the audience really in a lot of ways responds, and you can take that as like immediate feedback. It's really, really amazing. Like YouTube is brutal and amazing at the same time.
How has the audience changed? Because I noticed you, like I said, originally started out doing lighting. You did some camera reviews and lens reviews. What made you tailor it down to just lighting and sound? What made you drop a lot of the other stuff?
Well, there were some channels that I was following at the time. One that many people have probably heard of is Dave Dugdale. I really respected what Dave Dugdale was doing, and obviously a number of others as well. And so I realized at some point that, you know what? Camera reviews are pretty well covered here. And what's not covered here, there was nearly as much coverage of lighting, and there certainly wasn't as much coverage of sound. And in fact, the first video of mine that really sort of blew up that in terms of views, I went down to Home Depot, I bought these shop lamps, put some bulbs in them, set them up, and showed how you could do basically 3-point lighting with some shop lamps. So I think there was a lot for people that were trying to get into video, didn't want to be the guy that would dive into all the gory details on that. And that's what they were looking for, was information like, okay, what can I do that's affordable, that I can DIY, that I can put together that'll work, because I've got something to say to the world and I want to have a channel on YouTube. That's really where I started to kind of narrow things down and to focus.
What do you think people that are starting their channels today, because a lot of people in the last 2 weeks have had a lot of free time on their hands, especially the filmmakers who the industry kind of quietly shut down. And they sit there and they go, well, I've got these cameras, I've got this audio equipment, I can start a podcast. What kind of advice would you have for someone that wants to do a similar kind of channel like you, like a tech review channel?
Yeah, I think it's a matter of getting started. You have to be humble enough to be able to take the cues. So for me, I think the number one thing is you have to produce consistently, and it's hard. It's super duper hard. It's taxing and it's tiring. We're in this kind of unique situation now where I think more of us can probably get away with that because most of us are staying close to home, as we should. For me, I was kind of just pursuing topics that I was interested in and then taking the feedback. And the feedback comes in the form of views, it comes in the form of, comments, and, just overall audience engagement. If they start engaging on a topic, there's some interest out there. And that's really it. Be consistent, start producing, don't be afraid to fail because you will. I've made a lot of bad videos, and it's all the process of learning and getting better and providing something of greater value to your audience. So
when you talk about provided greater value to your audience, are you talking about going a step beyond what other creators are doing, or you're talking about the personality aspect that kind of you're putting it all out there in front of people?
There are different types of channels out there from my point of view. So there are entertainment channels, there are edutainment channels, there's pure educational channels, and the review channels, generally will fall somewhere in there. It'll be one of those types of channels, or perhaps even another spin. But each of us have our own personality. I don't think it's a good idea for anyone to try and create a personality that's not them. And I don't spend a lot of time trying to go hardcore as far as entertainment is concerned. Some people say I'm wrong for doing, I should make it more interesting and liven it up a little bit.
What's more interesting than science?
Well,
science and testing. I mean, that's
exactly.
And there's nothing like we as manufacturers can go, hey, Curtis, this one's not going to do so well. Can you skip that test? You don't ever do that. And I think the consistency is what made your channel very different.
Overall, it's been a fun ride, and I think that really for me, and I think for anyone that's thinking of starting a channel, my advice is do what's valuable for your audience. You're there for your audience. You're not there for the manufacturers. The manufacturers that have a good head on their shoulders will realize, what? We've produced a product that we're confident in, and we want to put it on this channel because we know that he or she will put it to the test, and it's going to be good for us. So let's do it. And so those are the companies I respect, and those are the ones I enjoy working with the most.
Now let's actually do a quick pivot. In the chat, this is from Jean Oliveira, I think is how you pronounce that. Curtis, for someone wanting to start a YouTube channel, would you first focus on equipment, or would you focus on classes like tutorials? Because you started off in the tutorial world, probably, I'm guessing because it's what you had available for you to touch immediately. Right?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's the best way to put it. I guess it makes sense to do whatever you can. Do what's of interest to you, and then be ready to receive feedback and tailor your next video based on that feedback. So if what you can do is tutorials, I would focus on that. If what you can do is, if you can focus on gear, I would do that. But what I would not do is don't go racking up a bunch of consumer debt on your credit card buying gear to do gear reviews, because I don't think that's a great way to start. I'd rather, at least I bootstrapped it, and once I started earning money through advertising revenue and through affiliate links, that's when I would reinvest that money, go buy the gear that I really wanted to review that the manufacturer wasn't willing to give to me, and then do those reviews as well. So that's how I would do it, is do what's available to you now and kind of build it from there. And again, keep your ear open, let your audience help guide what it is that you're going to eventually do. I don't talk about photography at all on my channel now, at all. And that was the original idea.
Do you miss the photography stuff, or do you really enjoy now what you do?
I really enjoy what I do now. And obviously you can't become someone that you don't want to become. So if your audience is basically saying, and I have these requests all the time, hey, can you review XYZ camera, or whatever it is that doesn't fit into what you're doing necessarily, or it doesn't interest you at all, you have to be careful about that. So there's this fine line you have to walk, of course. But for me, I love what I'm doing now. I absolutely love sound. And before, I thought it was all visuals. I thought I was going to focus 100% on visuals. And I learned how to record sound, A, to help my brother as a roadie, and B, maybe to help him in the studio every once in a while, and then C, so that I could record video. It wasn't my main thing at first. And it's become my first love at this point, I would say. In fact, my goal is the why behind why I do this is really to find a way to make the world a better sounding place. And I think we all have the ability to do it. Just need to learn some basic principles and start applying those.
Curtis, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. This has been a blast. Hopefully the BTS concert is renewed, and you have another reason to come on back to LA, and you can come see the beach in Santa Monica. It's really nice.
I would love to do that, and we'll do lunch or something. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it. Thanks so much.
Thank you. For you guys out there that are watching that are still with us, I just want to say thank you again for joining us. Go hit us up on our user group as well as kind of our Facebook comments. We do a lot of answers and whatnot when it comes to pulling those kinds of comments, creating videos for you guys in our future content going out on Facebook as well as on YouTube. Don't forget like, follow, and subscribe on all of our social media platforms. Andrew from Deity Microphones, and I just screwed up my own name because it's been an hour of talking. But I'm still Andrew. Thank you for watching.